Good evening, everyone. I want to acknowledge that we are on the traditional territory of the Coast Salish people, including our near neighbors, the Shannon First Nation and the South First Nation. Our home, a place we live, learn, work, and share. Welcome to the Finance meeting of December 4th, 2023. This is the last Finance meeting of 2023. Please note that there is a budget meeting this week on Thursday, December 7th at 4 p.m. here in the chambers. You are all welcome. And please be sure to have your cell phones turned off during the meeting, including the vibration mode. There are two meetings this evening. The first is the Finance Committee meeting, and then it's followed by the Council meeting. At each meeting, there will be an opportunity for the public to speak at public participation. This is an opportunity for you to speak to a topic pertaining to that specific meeting. Committee, are there any additions to the agenda? Okay. I just want to let everybody know that Councillor Shukin is online through the laptop here, so you will hear him, his voice come in throughout the two meetings. So on to presentations. Thank you. Approved by Mayor Little, seconded by Councillor Epp. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Okay, presentations. We have a presentation this evening. Laura Bernier, Strategic Services Consultant, Urban Systems, and Patrick Stevens, Project Engineer, the Capital Regional District, regarding the proposed CRD Regional Water Supply Development Cost Charge Program. Welcome.
Great. Is this on here?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor and Council. My name is Patrick Stevens. I'm a project engineer in the CRD's Water Supply Engineering and Planning Group, and with me tonight also from the CRD is Joseph Marr. We also have our consultant, Urban Systems, here tonight to help us present, with Laura Bernier and Samantha Bowen also in attendance. The purpose of tonight's presentation is to inform and answer any initial questions from the Metchosin Mayor and Council on the CRD's proposed Regional Water Supply Development Cost Charge Program. Any feedback received tonight will be compiled and presented to the Regional Water Supply Commission in early 2024. We ask that any follow-up questions, concerns, or comments be communicated to our project team through Metchosin staff, or brought forward through your representation on the Regional Water Supply Commission. We are aware of the correspondence included on tonight's council meeting agenda from the Urban Development Institute of the Capital Region, as well as the West Shore Developers Association. We welcome the feedback in this letter and for the opportunity to clarify the points of concern. On December 1st, the CRD issued a letter in response to the UDI letter, which has been sent to all members of the CRD Board, Regional Water Supply Commission, and Water Advisory Committee. For tonight, we hope to proceed with our presentation to inform Council, including our next steps, including our plans for public and development community consultation. Go. So the CRD has been working alongside Urban Systems for some time to develop the draft DCC program and to navigate the implementation process. The project was first identified to be explored through the Regional Water Supply 2017 Strategic Plan and was then identified as a priority by the CRD Board in the 2023 to 2026 Corporate Plan with the intent of implementing the Regional Water Supply DCC bylaw. The Water Advisory Committee and the Regional Water Supply Commission have been informed of our progress to date and have endorsed the continuation of the project to the consultation phase, which we are working through now. The Regional Water Supply Commission will be responsible for providing a recommendation to the CRD Board to finalize program details and to adopt a DCC bylaw. For those that may not be familiar, the CRD's Regional Water Supply Service provides bulk drinking water to the municipalities and First Nations in the Greater Victoria area. This includes the supply of drinking water to the CRD's Juan de Fuca Water Distribution Service, which in turn provides drinking water to residents of Metchosin where service is available. The primary water source is the Souk Lake Reservoir, and major components of the system include 3 watersheds, 15 dams, 2 tunnels, 2 disinfection facilities, and nearly 120 kilometers of transmission mains. I'll now hand it over to Laura from Urban Systems to continue with the presentation. Thank you again.
Thank you, Patrick. Wonderful. So tonight we would like to present a brief overview of the current DCC program and rates, as well as the proposed new regional water supply DCC, how that program was developed, and other policy considerations. From there, we'll show the proposed RWS DCC bylaw, including the rates, and then we'll open it up for questions and discussions. And certainly our overview will be a little shorter than what we might go into in a longer session. So really welcoming any questions or discussions at the end concerning that, as it will be pretty high level. So in terms of a brief overview here, to introduce DCCs are really fees that help support the off-site infrastructure that's needed to support growth. So those are anything that are off-site, including water, sewer, drainage, transportation, and parkland that are needed to support the community's needs, specifically for new development. These charges are regulated by the province through the Local Government Act and are also the programs are aligned with the Development Charges Best Practice Guides, which are in line with those legislative pieces. From there, all the legislation, all of the bylaws go for ministerial approval to the municipal inspector. Sorry. There we go. So in terms of the philosophy of DCCs, why do we have DCC charges? They're really intended to foster fairness. So here we're looking at a benefit or pay principle where those who are benefiting from the infrastructure are paying their fair share to share the cost of that burden. They also ensure consistency. So when developers are coming to a new community to develop, they understand and have transparent and equitable charges that can be applied throughout that area, and there's no negotiation that needs to take place. And as well, an important factor here is that it minimizes financial risk for the CRD as growth occurs in terms of the costs of infrastructure that's needed to continue levels of service to the community. Who pays for DCCs? So as I previously mentioned there, it's the development community that would be paying for DCCs at time of subdivision or at time of building permit, and that depends on the type of unit that you'd be building. So for single family homes, we'd be looking at a charge applied at subdivision approval, and for any other use, which includes apartments, townhomes, commercial uses, institutional uses, those would all be paid at building permit. So here we have a breakdown of the current rates that are in Metchosin. So there currently are no DCCs that are charged municipally throughout the area. However, there is a Juan de Fuca water distribution service that is applied for the 6 land use categories that you can see there. So this is the current DCC rates that are currently in place, and this presentation here is really about proposing a new rate that would come alongside this. So the Regional Water Supply DCC program that Patrick was alluding to before has been developed alongside the CRD and Urban Systems to provide lots of technical inputs to get it to this place. And now we're at this point of consultation. So a few of those inputs include the growth projections and timeline. So this has been determined over a 30-year time horizon up to 2053. So all of our growth and projects are aligned with that time horizon. We've also got the program development, which is largely based on capital plans, master plans, and other technical studies and analysis that have been done throughout the CRD. These really, as a note here, the eligible DCC projects that are in this program have been vetted based on their contribution to growth to make sure that they are indeed contributing to future development of the community. And then there is a project benefit allocation component. And this is where we start to go through every single project to determine the technical breakdown of how much will that project support new versus existing growth. So we'll get into each of these here. So as you can see, these are a couple of the inputs that I've mentioned there. There are the technical inputs, which are growth estimates, capital costs, and project timing, and those benefit factors where we're determining how much projects benefit new versus existing growth. Then there is additionally an assist factor that's taken into play. And this assist factor is really to support aiding the development community. There is a mandatory assist factor applied to all DCC bylaws between 1 and 99%. We've got a little bit more detail on that later. But this decision would be with the CRD board that would make that decision about how much assistance will be provided. And then from there we have those calculated DCC rates. So this is a little bit more detail about that assist factor. It's a bit of a nebulous concept here, but really what it is a percentage of assistance that the CRD board would be providing towards the development community between 1% and 99%. Typically, those are between approximately 1 and 10% in most DCC bylaws that we would be seeing. So we've assumed in this rate that we're using a 1% assist factor, but that would be up to the board's discretion to choose what that factor would be. Also to note, this assist factor would be made up through existing rate payers. So this would be made up through non-DCC funds, and that would be made up through the bulk water supply rate that would be paid through the regular rate that would be in place now. So this is an overview of the program for that 30-year time period, and this is where you can start to see how these project lists were really developed. So you can see the total program cost. There is about $1.5 billion in total for, we've got the Soup Lake Reservoir, the Leach Watershed, the water filtration plant, transmission mains, Smith Hill Storage Tank, and then studies and modeling. And I know that these numbers are relatively small here, and my pointer doesn't work on this screen. However, you'll see the total program costs in that first column, and then from there you'll see the benefit to new versus existing development. And these benefit factors are where we determine how much is this going to benefit the development community versus the existing population that's there. Where you see it 35%, that's where these projects are benefiting everybody. They're benefiting new development, which is approximately set at 35% of growth for the region, and they're benefiting new development, existing development at the same time. Where we see the benefit factor at 100%, for instance, that Leach Watershed, that is a new water reservoir that's coming online to support only new development. So that's why that's at 100%, because the existing reservoir is enough to service the existing population. From there, you'll note that there's a DCC recoverable charge there, and that's really what the developer's responsibility would be in terms of all of these infrastructure costs. So from the 1.4 billion that's there, the DCC recoverable from developers would be about 523 million, and the CRD costs would be 920 million towards that program. So in conclusion, these are kind of the DCC proposed rates for the RWS. So we would see that a low density residential, i.e. a single family home, would be approximately $9,000. There would be the one FUCA charge there for an additional approximately $3,000 for a total of $12,000 for a single family home. For medium density, you'd be looking at $10,500, and high density, like an apartment, would be $6,731. The commercial, industrial, and institutional rates are by gross floor area and square meters, so they're a little bit trickier to convert, but those are $44, $22, and $97 per square meter. So here we have a graph that really demonstrates what would happen to the bulk water rates if no DCC charges were implemented. And I know that there's a few things going on in this chart here, but what we really want to show is the threefold increase approximately of the bulk water rate charge that would be required if no DCCs were implemented. So this is all to say that the water rate for customers and existing ratepayers would increase significantly if no DCC charges were to be implemented. So this is just a very high-level overview of our process to show you where we're at in terms of our meeting with elected officials in all of the member municipalities throughout the CRD. From here, there'll be a consultation with the CRD board, the Regional Water Supply Commission and staff. And then there will be an opportunity for open houses and engagement with the public. Patrick has some additional details on some of the ongoing engagement with UDI and other stakeholders. And from there, there'll be some engagements on the CRD website. One important thing to note before we wrap up here is that even though these charges are going to be coming online and they're proposed and going to be taken to the board, even if they were to be adopted, there would be an in-stream grace period for development. So these charges would likely not apply until early 2026 with the ministry approval, the ongoing engagements, and then the in-stream application protection for developers who already have applications that are submitted. These bylaws are typically and have been updated every 5 years to accommodate new projects, changes in growth or project costs, or any grants that have come through the door. So the CRD has updated these every 5 years and is planning to continue to do so. All right, and then we'd love to open it up to discussion for everybody. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Maybe do you have any questions? Hello.
Yeah, thank you both for your presentation. Have you already formed the commission, the Regional Water Supply Commission?
Yes, and maybe Patrick can provide any more information on that. He's a little bit more familiar with the commission.
So the Regional Water Supply Commission was, like I said in my intro, they've been informed throughout the project. We last presented to them earlier this year in the spring, and they gave us the green light to move ahead with the consultation phase. And our plan is, once we've wrapped up all of our meetings with municipal staff as well as municipal councils like yourselves, that we would be going back to the commission in the spring of next year with an update and looking for next steps. And to progress into the public and development community consultation.
Councillor Gray.
Yeah, through the chair. I was just wondering about the DCC assist factors. Is that something that's applied to Metchosin specifically, or is it the CRD look at the entire operation and it's CRD wide?
Through the chair. The assist factor would be applied throughout the CRD wide program. So this this DCC bylaw would be one bylaw that would be applied regionally over the CRD. So all of the details of the bylaw would be consistent, and that's part of the benefits of having a program like this, is that it's one rate that developers can understand in every municipality.
And then just through the chair again. So we've received this letter from the UDI, Urban Development Institute, Capital Region, and they're raising questions beyond the DCC. So they're first, they're getting into it, saying, these costs are too much for us to bear, and the housing market and all the problems or changes that are occurring in housing. They raise all that, but then they're also saying that, these projects aren't necessary, or they're asking the question, they're saying there ought to be a lot of work done on whether the projects are necessary. But the projects you listed, the Souk Lake, taking water from the deep intake, adding the leach watershed into the system, filtration, the transition mains, the storage tank, those all seem to be things that have already been agreed by the CRD board that we're proceeding with. And then this is the question, how do we fund the project? Is that right?
Through the chair. The technical inputs have been decided, and Patrick is the project engineer, and I'll leave the engineering details to Patrick to explain. This is a question of how to fund those projects as they have been determined through technical study, through engineering analysis and reporting. Happy to provide more illumination on those projects if that is part of the question here.
No, that's good, I think, although unless others are interested, it just seems to me that the letter is a pretty powerful hit in terms of, my gosh, what are we doing? But as I read it, it's questioning decisions that have already been made, and now we're looking simply at the allocation of, not simply, but simply at the allocation of the costs.
Through the chair, yes, exactly. And the technical components of these are part of the program to underpin how do we provide sustainable service delivery to customers to ensure water is being provided. The DCC bylaw is one where there are recommendations that can be made about how to finance that. However, it is a question of, how do we finance this either from existing ratepayers Or do we have how much of that share does the development community contribute towards that?
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Councillor.
Well, yeah, being on a well, I really don't have any idea about water rates and so on. But what I was wondering was that this all goes through, so how exactly does this affect an average homeowner in Machosen?
Through the chair. The average homeowner who is on an existing lot, who is connected to the water service already, will not be impacted by the DCC rate. If they choose to subdivide their lot and develop an additional house on that lot, that house would be subject to a new DCC charge. Developers who buy a lot in the community, who want to build a 4-story or 6-story apartment building, they will have to pay the new DCC rate. Existing homeowners will not be affected by this, except to ensure that the water supply, if they are not on wells, for those who are using this service, ensure that that rate remains relatively stable through time. This will help maintain the stability of the water rate so that that doesn't absorb the burden of the costs for building that infrastructure that's needed.
Just so say someone does subdivide their lot, and so that the new lot is charged for the extra charge for the development permit. So moving forward, does that one lot continue to pay higher rates than the original lot?
Through the chair, rates, can you clarify what you mean by what type of rate? The water rate?
Yeah, so if I'm just an average homeowner paying a certain monthly rate or annual rate about water, and I subdivide part of my property off, and then they pay, like who pays? Do they eventually pay the same amount, the same rates, or?
Everyone pays all of the same rates for whether you're consuming water or for DCC rate. All rates would be equal across the board, except depending on the land use type. So a single family home pays a higher charge than a multifamily apartment, but that rate is only paid once at the time of subdivision or at the time of building permit.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Schiffman?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Patrick and Laura. Two questions. The one I just want to get confirmation. I think you've answered it in a way. If you're setting up like a program or like a scheme, if you will, and with the DCCs, I guess the question that was going through my mind is, what is the alternative if you did not do the DCC program? And I think you answered it by saying that bulk water rates we'd see a threefold increase. Is that a simple answer to the question of what would be the alternative?
Through the chair, that's correct.
Okay, sounds good. And I do feel a bit compelled by the argument that has been put forward that there's not been much consultation to date, and the most I've heard of this initiative has been through the UDI letter. So it's good to hear that there's more coming, and I think the community is going to be much more aware now. The broader CRD community is much more aware now, and probably you'll get much more interest. But to the UDI letter, the one thing I thought was quite compelling is their challenge of some of the inflationary assumptions to the base cost of $1.528 billion, and that if you look at, I think it's the expenditures assumed through 2031 to 2049, it goes up to $2.5 billion. They challenge that and say that I think your inflationary figures are too low, and they put it at somewhere in the order of 3.5 to 4 billion, the actual cost. Any response to that? This is on page 3 of their letter.
Yes, through the chair. I can speak to that briefly, and it goes to what Laura was speaking about the 5-year updates of the DCC bylaw and program. If implemented, the bylaw would be reviewed every 5 years, and those cost estimates updated to reflect any changes in inflation. So that's one way we can stay on top of the cost estimates included in this DCC bylaw.
Okay, sounds good. I mean, that does, I think, open up the possibility of additional inflationary pressures being viewed and seen every 5 years. So, yeah, I find this point actually kind of quite interesting. And regardless of whether we think we've got a handle on it, like you undertake a big capital project like this with a great deal of trepidation, because as we all know, things take longer and they always seem to be more expensive. But Patrick, thank you for the response, and no further questions.
Through the chair,
Yes.
if I may. I would also add that in addition to the 5-year cost updates that will happen from a major DCC standpoint, there's also an opportunity to increase DCCs with inflation on an annual basis as well. So that helps to complement the steady measured increase that the CRD will be providing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mary Lou.
Thank you. One question through the chair. It makes sense that those who use the service would pay for the service, absolutely. But it does beg the question why there hasn't been a DCC bylaw of the CRD up until now. Can you comment on that, or perhaps your colleagues, Mr. Marr? Thank you.
Through the chair. A DCC program and bylaw was previously looked at for the Regional Water Supply Commission. This goes back to the mid-late 90s. It was not pursued at that point. There was a draft program and a draft bylaw, similar to where we are right now, and the program did not proceed at that time. Details for which I'm not sure, but it has been looked at in the past.
Thank you.
Any other questions, committee? Councillor Gray.
Maybe I could just, not so much a question, but just to point out that the projects that we've heard about, well, Laura, when you showed us this through the chair, the slide, we saw that Leach was 100% for new builds, basically, or it's been allocated that way. And the other projects, so going to the deep end of the Souk Lake, the water filtration plant, the transmission mains, those are all to do with basically upgrading existing services, or upgrading existing water systems. And those upgrades are benefiting existing people and will benefit new people both. And then the argument or the question of consultation raised in the UDI letter, I gather an awful lot of consultation was done actually on the master plan that brought us those 6 or 7 items. But perhaps UEDI wasn't effective in their lobbying and the questions that they raised, but the decisions were reached as a result of quite a bit of work. So it seems to me that the question legitimately now is how to pay for the service. And DCC sounds like the right way to go from my perspective. I share the mayor's opinion that the benefit allocation work is sensible. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your presentation this evening.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome to stay if you like, or you can exit. Okay, on to the next part of our agenda is public participation. When you speak at the mic, I ask that you be respectful in your presentation to our council, staff, and visitors in the gallery this evening. Thank you. And please state your name and the street in which you live. Nobody? Welcome.
Hello, Leslie Singer down on 525 Woody Beach Road. Actually, I did have a question after I read online about their proposal. In regards to the directions from our current provincial government that wants us to open up, put in secondary suites, secondary houses, we've got people who want tiny homes, we've got people who want RV pads. What this didn't answer for me was that as a homeowner, if I wanted to build a secondary suite or a small house on my land for my son, would I have to pay approximately another $12,000 building fee. I just would like to have that answered at some point, not now, not today, but I'd just like that to be considered in the back, because the provincial government has wanting people to start opening up without subdivision. Just, right, that was not answered on this presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Chris Moore, 4545 William Head Road. I'd hoped to be able to put this question to our presenters, but whatever. Just something you might flag for future discussions on this. I did not hear any reference tonight to agricultural rates, and not just for existing ones, but if we're trying to promote new agricultural operations within the district. As you well know, there is a considerable discount on an ag rate. I don't think that would be impacted at all. But if a new farmer came in and wanted to, start up a farming operation and doesn't have the water that they obviously need, how would that be accommodated? You might just make a note for reference down the road. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening. Ellen Frisch, Perry Crossroad. I'm just up here tonight, attended the planning meeting last week, and I noticed that there was another letter that came in for tonight's supplemental agenda on the matter of the rezoning. I've done a number of rezonings myself in other municipalities, and I was surprised at the discussion last week that Machosen's policy with respect to rezonings does not include a more robust analysis of water supply. So I looked it up, particularly in respect of the letter that was sent in, and Machosen's approach to addressing water, the ability to service, doesn't come in until a house is ready to be built. So it's a requirement in advance of getting your permit, but it's not a requirement in Machosen to rezone, even though a rezoning will net additional houses. So I just wanted to draw your attention to other bylaws in a few other jurisdictions that present options, and options that link the size of the area of the property to be subdivided with the ability to service it with water. So there's matrices of subdivision opportunities, and I can provide those separately, but they tend to be in regional district area bylaws, where the regional districts, of course, manage the water supply, but they also have these electoral areas. So they've set up some tight structure there. So the Nanaimo Regional District has a good way of creating that matrix and asking those questions and requiring that proof at application of subdivision. The Juan de Fuca electoral area for CRD also has a similar type of proof, and what they're looking for, and where they start getting a little bit more specific, is the volume service of the existing dwelling. So does the existing dwelling have a permitted well? And in the case of Leafield, yes, it does. If we're looking at examples, in Juan de Fuca, they want to know, has there been an engineer's review of the existing well? Has there been a Drinking Water Protection Act drinking water study? Does the existing well producing, and is it supplying even now an adequate drinking water supply? So those are the kind of tests used elsewhere, which if Machosen was going to kind of use a different lens to evaluate water supply in relation to subdivision, especially given the discussion we just had, those are a couple of options. I think similar to a couple of the other speakers, the CRD did not answer for me a few things. I've got neighbors who've put in wells. We've also priced them out. and a DCC cost charge of $12,000, especially for a single homeowner, that's, not much less in some cases, depending on how deep, than putting a well in. So it's in certain places in Metchosin, it's going to drive more interest in a well development and be off the CRD books from people's perspective. The other thing they didn't mention is that in addition to being able to update the DCCs annually based on where fees fit, they can update our fees, what we pay as water rate payers annually as well. And I know my water bill, I wish I'd looked up the increase, but it's changed substantially in the last couple of years. So that's something that we could see pass on to us, even though we might not have a lot of subdivisions that might trigger this. So just some thoughts on that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else like to have a chat at the mic? Seeing none, we'll move on to the adoption of the minutes on page 5 for the Finance meeting of November 20, 2023. Moved by Mayor Little, second by Councillor Epp. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. And the special committee, Finance Committee budget meeting, November 23, 2023, page 9. Motion to adopt. Mayor Little, Councillor Epp, seconded. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. And then on to page 13 for the Greater Victoria Public Library 2024 budget and 5-year financial plan. Any questions, committee? Councillor Gray.
Well, just if you could direct us on page 15 of the agenda package.
Yes.
My understanding is that this is a 5.95% tax increase.
That's my understanding.
For the increase on the proportion that is the Greater Victoria Public Library.
Correct.
Thanks.
Any other queries? Mary Lou?
I think the obvious thing is that we pay a lot for the Greater Victoria Public Library, so I hope that everybody in our community uses the library.
Yes.
And bring your kids and your grandkids, because it is a service and a real beloved service, but I would encourage everybody to use it.
And we do have several libraries in the West Shore library sites. There are 10 municipalities that pay into the library system. But we do have the one Fuca Library, which is down by West Shore Parks and Recreation on that property, and then the Heritage Branch, which is up behind BY in the same building, and the Gowdy Branch, which is in downtown Langford. So yes, they do offer lots of different services, and a lot of them are also online services. So you do live streaming, you can book your books, your audiobooks, those sorts of things. There's an inter-library borrowing system that's very active.
So I'd like to move that the Finance Committee recommend Council approve the Greater Victoria Public Library 2024 budget and 5-year financial plan.
Second.
And second by Councillor Shukin. All in favor? Comment, Councillor Gray?
I just had a question about the library. I'm wondering, is it, following on Mayor Little's point, is the library in an expansion mode at the moment? Is it shrinking or is it staying the same, just in terms of vision and direction? On the weekend, someone mentioned to me visiting Old Barn Books. I said, we need a library out here too. And I thought, well, that's an interesting, that hadn't occurred to me. In the olden days where I grew up as a kid, there was a bookmobile, a mobile library. Any comment about sort of direction?
The library, from my understanding, when I did my orientation with them earlier, well, it was this time last year, I guess, they talked about doing something like that here, just sort of a lending library, or a pop-up type situation, but they were shooed away really quickly because of Old Barn Books. However, they are most willing to come and do presentations and in-service to learn more about the library, and I've asked them about that. specifically because it's been a while since I've used some of their online services. I know a lot of people here in the community do. They will be coming to give us a presentation in the new year here at Council. But the only expansion I am aware of is they have been rejuvenating some of their libraries. One of the most recent ones is there is a plan for the Nellie McClung to go through a rebuild with a housing component above it. And there was a presentation actually at the board recently, and so there will be an open house. I have that actually in my next report. There will be an open house for the public later this year, and with the build starting in 2025. So a lot of work to be done for a concept like that. So if we're ever thinking of something like that, maybe not with a library, because we don't have one here, but any other kind of build that we've talked about, it's long, lots of planning involved. So
Thank you.
you're welcome. Okay, so if we could turn to my report.
We need to, I didn't vote.
I called the question? Oh, I didn't, I should have asked. So I'll call the question. Everybody's in favor. Carried. Thank you very much. Okay, so for my councillor's update, when I was asked to put this together, I thought, gosh, in 2 weeks I haven't gone to any board meetings. I had nothing to say, but clearly I have like 2 pages worth of stuff here. So quickly, because I know we have another meeting. So the Agricultural Select Committee, many thanks to Karen Hoffman for her service this past year, and longtime agriculture member John Buchanan. Both members have been an asset to the committee, regular participants at Farmers Market, and valued farmers in our community. Their term on the Ag Committee is ending at the end of this month for 2023. I would like to make a request that staff prepare an advertisement for the Chosen News for January and February editions to seek interest among the community members in joining the Agricultural Select Committee.
I'll second that.
And second by Mayor Little. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Okay, so on the same thread of the agriculture, the ag plan is, as we heard at the last meeting, is being worked on. We have gone live with 2 surveys, I believe, today. Is that correct? Yes. So it's on the website, and I believe it will be put into the news if it hasn't been already. So there are 2 surveys. One is for the community, and the other one is for farmers. And I encourage you all to take part in that and help us flesh out what it is that we have and what we need in our community as far as supporting farmers and expanding our agriculture for this community and for outlying communities as well, because there's a lot of food security concerns that we do have in the region. The Farmers Market had their final day on the weekend. There was their Christmas market on Sunday. In the new year, I'm going to be working a little bit closer with the farm stands, and they are open for business. Many of them are year-round, some of them are not. So there'll be things that I'll be learning about is what their hours are and what sort of things that they offer, different seasons, different products, that sort of thing. Sometimes the farm stands are smaller farms that don't have sufficient quantity of stuff to sell at a farmer's market. Others are very large farms that do both. So a variety of different services that they're offering. So I do encourage you to check them out through the season. There are some that I think open for December, so you can get lots of vegetables for all the festivities that we're embarking on and keep healthy. West Shore Parks and Recreation recently had hazmat training exercise in partnership with the Colwood Fire Department, West Shore RCMP, and the CRD Hazmat Response Team and West Shore Parks and Recreation staff. Programming was not interrupted during this process. Emergency crews and operation teams were cognizant and not to interrupt the regular programming. Teams worked collaboratively to keep responders at the ready and public safe. And Rescue Randy survived the exercise and is safe and sound. He was the mannequin. Greater Victoria Public Library, I have been, I think reported previously, I am the vice chair of the Island Links Public Libraries, and we had a meeting online because these are the islands and smaller communities. The 2024 program plan is ready. Emergency preparedness includes the cooling centers during extreme heat events with heat pumps and water bottle filling stations at branch libraries. Their budget is involving things like resourcing grants, similar to the Greater Victoria Public Library, which is a member of the Island Links Public Libraries. And they are very good about procuring products that fit within their library budgets and make arrangements with various companies to guarantee reduced pricing. So just to keep down on some of their products. And I did say about the Nellie McClung, it's November 14th that they're going to be having their open house, so if anybody's interested in checking out the schematics and the planning steps for that. There'll be rezoning steps, concept drawings. They're developing from 25,000 square feet up to 30,000 square feet to answer your expansion question. So the other thing that has kept me quite busy is actually not so much the board meetings, because they are narrowing down their schedules this time of year, is community engagement. Several days a week I'm meeting with various people within the community beyond these meetings that you see us at this table. And that would include queries. Both Councillor Gray and myself have been learning about the process of auto payment for automatic payments through utilities building. Not all utilities provide that, and so the water board was one of the ones that we were learning about recently. And there's always media inquiries to chosen initiatives, whether it's through, and recently it's been the bufflands, as well as the animal control and dog feces installation of our new canisters, I guess they are. Had the opportunity of touring some municipal facilities, the operations and future plans of those, one of them being the school site. I had the pleasure of actually 2 tours, one of the whole school and getting right into the heart of it, seeing where all the upgrades of wiring and even the old foundation of the old part of the school, which is inside what we look like as the old school. So it's very, very many, there's a lot of layers to this building. The other thing that the other tour was with the gymnasium and the ongoing or almost finished bathrooms and kitchens coming on quite swiftly. Hard to believe they'll be finished by the end of the month, but they are very busy over there. So they clearly are skilled and know what they're doing. And then just meeting with residents to seek solutions for their quality of life, the environment, the humans that live here, the wildlife, and their health. And I think we talked a little bit about that. I brought up with the fireworks. We're always having concerns about different noisemakers and pollution and whatnot that we instill on each other. I would like to encourage people with us going into the holiday season to be mindful of their own health and wellness. And we have the farmers providing some food for us. We have great trails and shorelines and lots of places to find exercise, be with friends, and some peace and tranquility. This time last year, there was quite a bit of feedback from some residents as to what do we do for people who are impoverished. I reached out to the Gold Stream Food Bank recently, having had experience with them in years past doing filling hampers with the scouting youth, and wanted to know if they needed any help. And I'm on the wait list because the hamper program is volunteers are filled for that, but I'm on the wait list for us to restock shelves, because I said I had a contingent of councillors that would be just dying to get up there to help me do that. So You may be getting a last minute phone call. So those are some things that we could be doing and have done in the past in our community. But also we've done the coldest night of the year, our place where we've served up lunch at Christmas time, and both Councillor and Mayor Little and myself did that last Christmas. We'll be doing it this Christmas. Mayor Little has done the Thanksgiving lunch as well. The Gold Stream Food Banks, as you all know, are always looking for food to put onto their shelves. The Backpack Project, as you all passed in the hallway here, so please do consider contributing to that. If you're not sure what to contribute, just call me. I will help you out with that. I did see there's a box at the Machosen Community House too, so lots of different ways that we can help impoverish people, and if you do know of anybody that needs help, please let us know. Thank you. So with that, I'd like to take a motion to adjourn the finance meeting. Motion by Mayor Little, second by Councillor Gregg. All in favor? Carried. Thank you.